Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the English Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Jason, and I'm really happy to have you here today. In today's episode, we are going to talk about something that many English learners find difficult: how to think fast and speak smart in English. Have you ever been in a situation where someone speaks to you in English and your mind suddenly goes blank? You know the answer, but you just can't say it quickly. You start thinking, translating words in your head, and by the time you are ready to answer, the moment is gone. If this sounds familiar, don't worry, you're not alone. Many English learners face the same problem. The good news is that you can train your brain to think faster and speak more confidently. In this episode, I'll show you how to understand why it's hard to think fast in English, learn how to train your mind to think directly in English, and discover simple techniques to speak clearly, smartly, and with confidence. By the end of this podcast, you'll have a better understanding of how to make your mind quick and your words flow naturally. So, get comfortable, relax, and let's begin our journey to think fast and speak smart in English. Now, before we learn how to think fast and speak smart, let's first understand why many people struggle with it. Have you ever noticed that when you speak in your own language, words come out easily and quickly? But when you try to speak in English, your brain feels slow, like it's moving through mud. Why does this happen? Well, there are a few main reasons. Let's look at them one by one. First, many learners think in their native language first, and then try to translate every word into English. For example, if your first language is not English, your brain creates a sentence in your language first. Then you translate it into English word by word. This translation takes time, and by the time you find the right words, the other person may already be waiting for your answer. That's why thinking in your own language slows you down. Second, many learners are afraid of making mistakes. They want to speak perfectly. They think too much about grammar, pronunciation, and word choice. But when you focus too much on being perfect, you lose your natural flow. It's like trying to run fast while checking every step. You just can't move quickly. Remember, making mistakes is a normal part of learning. The more you speak, the more natural you become. Third, some learners don't have enough speaking practice. They spend a lot of time reading and writing English, but they rarely speak it aloud. Speaking is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. If you don't practice speaking, your brain doesn't get used to forming English sentences quickly. And finally, many learners overthink before speaking. They worry too much about what others will think. They start asking themselves questions like, what if I say something wrong? What if my accent sounds strange? These thoughts create pressure and make your brain slow down. So, to summarize, you struggle to think fast in English, mainly because you translate in your head, fear mistakes, lack speaking practice, and overthink before speaking. But don't worry, in the next part, I'll show you how your brain and mouth work together when you speak English, and how you can make that connection faster and smoother. Now that we know why many learners struggle to think fast, let's talk about something very important: the connection between thinking and speaking in English. You see, speaking a language is not only about words, it's also about how your brain and mouth work together. When you speak, Your brain has to find the right ideas, choose the right words, and then send them to your mouth all in just a few seconds. If your brain is not used to doing this in English, it needs more time to find those words. That's why sometimes you know what you want to say, but your mouth can't keep up. Let's compare it to driving a car. When you first learn to drive, you think about every single move, when to press the brake, how to turn the wheel, how to change gears. It feels slow and stressful, but after practice, your brain and body start to work together automatically. You no longer think about every action you just drive. The same thing happens with English. At first, you think a lot about grammar and vocabulary, but with regular speaking practice, your brain starts to think directly in English, without translation. That's when your thinking and speaking become fast and natural. So remember, if you want to speak smart, train your brain to think in English, not to translate. So now, let's talk about how you can actually train your brain to think in English. The truth is, your brain works like a muscle. The more you use it in English, the stronger and faster it becomes. You don't need to wait for special lessons or classes. You can start this training every single day, right where you are. Here are a few simple ways to do it. First, start by talking to yourself in English. You don't need anyone else for this. For example, when you wake up, describe what you're doing. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm making breakfast. I'm getting ready for work. This small habit trains your mind to think directly in English words and sentences. Second, describe what you see around you. If you're walking outside, look at things and say them in English. For example, the sky is blue. That man is riding a bicycle. Or I can hear birds singing. This helps your brain connect English to real life, not just to grammar books. Third, avoid translating from your native language. It may feel slow at first, but push yourself to think in English only. If you don't know a word, use another simple one instead, or describe it. For example, if you forget the word refrigerator, you can say, the place where we keep food cold. And finally, make English part of your daily life. Watch short English videos, read small articles, or listen to podcasts like this one. Expose your brain to English as much as possible. The more input you get, the more naturally you'll start to think in it. Remember, you can't think fast in English if your brain doesn't live in English. So, the more you surround yourself with it, the faster your mind will respond. Now that your brain is starting to think in English, the next step is learning how to organize your thoughts quickly before speaking. Even if you know the words, speaking can feel confusing if your ideas are all mixed up in your mind. So, organizing your thoughts helps you speak clearly and smartly. Here are some simple techniques you can use. First, use short pauses. It's okay to take 1 or 2 seconds before answering a question. During this pause, quickly decide what you want to say first, next, and last. These small pauses make your speech sound calm and confident, not slow or hesitant. Second, use a simple structure for your ideas. For example, you can think in 3 steps. First, then finally. If someone asks you about your day, you can say, first, I woke up and had breakfast. Then, I went to work. Finally, I came home and relaxed. This structure makes your sentences clear and easy to follow. Third, keep your sentences short and simple. You don't need long or complicated sentences. Speak in small pieces of information, one idea at a time. Short sentences are easier for your brain to produce quickly and easier for listeners to understand. And finally, practice thinking in questions and answers. If you expect common questions, prepare short answers in your mind. For example, for "How are you?" you can think, "I'm fine, thank you. How about you?" This saves time and makes your speech faster and smoother. Remember, organizing your thoughts is not about perfection. It's about clarity, simplicity, and speed. With regular practice, your brain will naturally organize ideas before speaking. Now that you can think in English and organize your thoughts, the next step is to speak smart in any situation. Speaking smart doesn't mean using big or difficult words. It means speaking clearly, meaningfully, and confidently, even if you don't know everything. Here are some simple techniques you can use. First, use short and clear sentences. For example, instead of saying, "I think that it might be possible to consider going to the park," you can say, "We can go to the park." Short sentences are faster to say, easier to understand, and sound smart. Second, if you forget a word, describe it instead. For example, if you forget the word umbrella, you can say, "the thing we use when it rains." This keeps the conversation going and shows that you can handle the situation. Third, use thinking phrases when you need time. For example, "Let me think. That's a good question. I'm not sure, but I think." These phrases give your brain a few seconds to organize ideas while keeping your speech natural. And finally, focus on meaning, not perfection. Don't worry too much about grammar mistakes or pronunciation. If people understand your message, that's what matters most. Smart speakers communicate clearly, not perfectly. Remember, the key to speaking smart is clarity, confidence, and control. With these techniques, you can handle any conversation, even if you feel unsure at first. Now, let's talk about practice exercises. Thinking fast and speaking smart doesn't happen automatically. You need regular practice. The good news is, these exercises are simple, and you can do them every day. First, try talking about random topics for 1 minute. Pick a topic, for example, "my favorite food," or "my day." Set a timer for 1 minute and speak in English without stopping. Don't worry about mistakes, just speak. This exercise trains your brain to think quickly and keeps your mouth moving. Second, do quick response drills. Ask yourself simple questions and answer them immediately. For example, "What did I eat today?" "What is my favorite movie?" "What will I do tomorrow?" The goal is to answer immediately, without translating. Third, imitate native speakers. Watch short English videos or listen to podcasts and repeat what you hear. Try to copy the rhythm, tone, and speed. This helps your brain get used to natural English flow. And finally, practice thinking in English every day. Even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes, describe your surroundings, your feelings, or your plans in English. Little daily practice adds up and makes a huge difference. Remember, the more you practice, the faster your brain will respond, and the smarter your English will sound. Now, before we finish, it's important to talk about common mistakes English learners make when trying to think fast and speak smart. Knowing these mistakes will help you avoid them and improve faster. First, many learners try to speak too fast. They think speaking fast will make them sound smart. but speaking too quickly without organizing your thoughts can make your sentences confusing. It's better to speak at a natural speed, clear, calm, and confident. Second, learners often worry too much about grammar. They pause for a long time, trying to make everything perfect. Remember, your goal is to communicate. Native speakers often make small grammar mistakes, but they are still understood. Third, some learners use complicated words unnecessarily. They think bigger words make them sound smarter. But using simple, clear words is better. It's faster for your brain and easier for listeners to understand. And finally, a very common mistake is not practicing real-life speaking situations. Reading books or watching videos is useful, but speaking practice is essential. If you don't practice conversations, your brain won't learn to respond quickly. So remember, speak clearly, not too fast. Focus on communication, not perfection. Use simple words. Practice real-life situations. If you avoid these mistakes, your English will become faster, smarter, and more natural. Now it's time for a mini practice activity. This is a short exercise you can do right now to train your brain and start speaking smarter in English. Here's what we're going to do. Step 1. Pick a simple topic. For example, my morning routine, my favorite food, a place I want to visit. Step 2. Set a timer for 1 minute. During this 1 minute, speak in English without stopping. Don't worry about mistakes or grammar. Focus only on speaking and letting your thoughts flow in English. Step 3. If you forget a word, describe it instead. For example, if you forget refrigerator, you can say, the thing where I keep my food cold. Keep going, don't stop. Step 4. Repeat this activity every day. You can choose different topics each time. After a few days, you'll notice that your brain starts to think faster in English, and your sentences come out more naturally. Remember, the key is practice and consistency. Even just a few minutes every day will make a big difference over time. Before we finish, I want to share a little motivation with you. Learning to think fast and speak smart in English is not something that happens overnight. It takes time, practice, and patience. But every small step counts. Think about real life for a moment. Every day, you meet people, answer questions, or share your ideas. If you can think quickly and speak clearly, you can express yourself confidently, make a good impression, and connect with others easily. Remember, even native speakers sometimes pause to think. What matters is that you keep practicing, keep speaking, and keep improving a little bit every day. So, don't get discouraged if it feels slow at first. Every effort you make now is building a stronger, faster, and smarter English brain for the future. With this mindset, thinking fast and speaking smart will become natural, and you'll see real progress in your conversations. And that's it for today's episode of the English Learning Podcast. We talked about how to think fast and speak smart in English. You learned why learners struggle, how your brain and mouth work together, practical techniques to organize your thoughts, and exercises to train your brain to respond quickly. We also covered common mistakes and a mini practice activity you can do every day. Remember, the key is practice, consistency, and confidence. Start small, speak regularly, and don't be afraid of mistakes. They are part of learning. If you apply even a little of what we discussed today, you will notice your English improving faster than before. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it useful. Keep practicing, keep improving, and I'll see you in the next episode of the English Learning Podcast. Bye for now, and happy speaking.